In this video, we're going to take a closer look at our Cisco IOS, and we're going to start things off by first looking at the Cisco device itself. So this device contains many pieces of hardware and software. Now this hardware and software offers many features, however most of them are disabled by default. The way that we're going to enable them is through commands that are offered by our Cisco IOS image file. So now once again, your Cisco device is going to look to load this file from Flash by default, and here we can actually see that file. If we wanted to get more information about this file, then we could run the following command against it. And then inside the output, we'll be able to verify not only that it's an image file, but it's also an executable file. We can also see over here by this .bin that it's a binaries file. Now a typical usage for a binaries file is that it's some sort of executable that enables you to execute one or more commands, and that's exactly what this file does for us. Now when looking inside the naming convention for this file, we can see this Z over here, and this is the typical character that's used to represent a compressed file. So your Cisco device is going to look inside of this location by default. It's then going to take this file, decompress it, load it into RAM, and then it's going to run it from there. So now once your Cisco IOS gets loaded into RAM, the commands that you have available to you will be dependent on which Cisco IOS image file that you actually have. So they are not all the same. So your Cisco IOS is going to group commands based on what is known as a feature set. And just think of this as kind of like a grouping of commands that enable you to enable features that your Cisco IOS hardware and software actually provide, right? So it's going to be not only dependent on that, but also on your Cisco IOS version as well. So what we'll find out later on is that you're going to look first to see if commands are available by a particular iOS version, and then you're going to see which images actually have those commands within their feature set. So now we're going to walk through the following scenario. So your company has asked you to set up IPv6 on all 1841 routers within your infrastructure. And here we're going to start with router 1. So if I go up to global configuration mode, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to try to enable IPv6 forwarding on all available interfaces. Now when we try to execute this command, we're getting an error. Once again, anytime you get this error, you always want to refer to that context-sensitive help. So I'm going to back this off to where the error is. And when we use that help, we're going to see that the only commands that begin with IP within this mode is IP. So to investigate this further, we're going to take a look at our image file. So with our image file, we can see that we're using version 12.4 and that we have the following feature set. Now the reason that we don't have any other commands that begin with IP is because they're not available within it. So now through this terminal, I actually have sessions established with multiple routers. So now I'm just going to issue a key sequence and bounce over to router 2. Now on this router right here, we're going to try to issue the same command. Now on this router, this command is understood, so I'm actually going to tab complete it. Now to investigate this, I'm going to back this off. And here we can see that there are multiple commands that begin with IP. To investigate this even further, we're going to take a look at our image file. And here we can see that we are using the same software version, however, we're using a different feature set, and that's giving us these additional commands. So now what we're looking at here on the screen is what is known as a feature set hierarchy. So this is for any software releases that are before version 15. Notice that your iOS is going to group commands based on the services that they can enable. So now let's take a general example. Suppose you're hammering away inside the command line and you get a command that's not understood. A typical process that you might follow is to search through Cisco's documentation, and then based on a release, it will let you know whether or not the command has been made available or whether it's retired. What your Cisco documentation will typically do after that is it will instruct you to use the feature set navigator in order to determine which feature sets that command belongs to. So now I've already got this opened up over here, and what I'm giving is kind of like a general example is I'm comparing the two software releases that we had in our previous example. So now inside of here, what we can do is we can plug in our naming convention, and this is going to identify essentially the features that we have within our feature set. Down here we can see each of the images. It gives kind of like some requirements that are needed in order to run them, and then down here we can see the features that are unique to each, and then the features that are common between the two. So this is going to help us to identify which commands are available with which images. So now the last thing that I want to cover here is just 3 commands that we can use to verify the iOS version. So now if we're storing the Cisco IOS image file in its default location, then we can execute the show flash command and we can see the iOS version is 12.4. We can also issue the show version command. Now this is going to give us a wealth of information, but what we're looking for is right at the top. Now this last command, we can actually verify it inside of our configuration files. So we're going to issue a show run, and we're going to be able to see this within the first page. And here we can see it right here. So once again, you're going to use your image version to determine whether or not the commands are available, and then you're going to use your software feature navigator in order to determine which feature set the commands belong to.